November 1987, Ena, Illinois, a town so small you could drive through it in under a minute, a place where people left their doors unlocked, where neighbors waved from their porches, and where the loudest sound at night was the wind moving through the bare November trees. But on one cold night, something happened here that would leave even the most hardened detectives shaken. A family of 3 and an unborn child, slaughtered in a way so brutal it defies belief. And the killer? He may have been a serial predator, still out there. This is the story of the Dardeen family murders, a case as haunting today as it was nearly 4 decades ago. Russell Dardeen was 29 years old, quiet, dependable, and steady as the seasons. He worked at the local water treatment plant, a job that didn't make headlines but kept the town running. He was the kind of man who noticed if your porch light was out and offered to fix it. Elaine, his wife, was 30. She had a warm laugh that carried across the yard and a way of making everyone feel welcome. She was 8 months pregnant with their second child, a baby girl they had already named. Their son, Peter, was 3 years old, bright-eyed, curious, and always smiling. He loved toy trucks, bedtime stories, and the sound of his father's voice. The Dardeens lived in a modest mobile home on the outskirts of Ina, a rural town of just 400 people. Life here was simple, quiet, and safe. Or so everyone thought. Ina was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business, or thought they did. The biggest news in town was usually a high school football win or a church bake sale. Crime was rare, and violent crime was almost unheard of. Russell and Elaine had moved to Ina a few years earlier, drawn by the promise of a slower pace and a safe place to raise their children. They were active in their church, friendly with their neighbors, and by all accounts happy. On November 18th, Russell didn't show up for work. He didn't call in. At first, his co-workers assumed he might be sick or dealing with a family matter. But as the hours passed, concern began to grow. Friends tried phoning the house, no answer. By evening, concern turned to fear. Police arrived at the Dardeen home just after sunset. The front door was locked from the outside, the blinds were drawn, and inside, silence. Officers knocked, no response. They circled the home, peering through narrow gaps in the curtains. Nothing moved. The November wind cut through the empty street. Frost clung to the metal door handle. The only sound was the crunch of boots on gravel as an officer stepped onto the porch. Neighbors watched from their windows, uneasy. This wasn't the kind of place where police visits ended badly. But something about the stillness that night felt wrong. When officers finally entered the home, the scene that greeted them was beyond comprehension. Elaine lay on the bed, beaten to death. Beside her was Peter, also beaten. Elaine's unborn child had been cut from her womb, a baby girl who did not survive. The brutality was staggering. Even seasoned investigators struggled to process what they were seeing. Russell was nowhere to be found. The next day, his body was discovered in a field, beaten and shot. He had been found near his car, abandoned on a rural road. The timeline was unclear. Had Russell been killed first, or had he been forced to watch his family die? The evidence offered no comfort. Only more questions. There was no sign of forced entry. Whoever did this, Russell likely let them in. A local drifter with a violent past. Police questioned several, but nothing stuck. Serial killer Tommy Lynn Sells. Years later, Sells confessed, claiming he killed the family after Russell invited him in. But his story was riddled with inconsistencies. He couldn't recall key details, and some of his claims didn't match the evidence. Revenge or mistaken identity. Could the Dardeens have been targeted by someone with a grudge? Or was it a horrific case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time? And then there were the other murders, similar killings in nearby states. Same brutality, same senselessness. Investigators chased every lead. They interviewed neighbors, co-workers, and anyone who might have seen something unusual in the days before the murders. They combed through Russell's financial records, looking for signs of trouble. They examined the crime scene for fingerprints, footprints, anything that might point to a suspect. But the trail went cold almost immediately. Ina was never the same. People locked their doors for the first time. Parents kept children indoors. The Dardeen murders became a cautionary tale, whispered about in hushed tones. For years, the case would resurface in local newspapers, each time with the same headline, "Still unsolved." Elaine's parents passed away without answers. Russell's surviving relatives still hope for justice. Was Tommy Lynn Sells telling the truth, or is the real killer still out there? This is more than a cold case. It's a wound that's never healed. What do you think happened in Ina, Illinois, that November night? Let me know your theory in the comments.